So the internet over the last 24 hours has become an explosive battlefield as Assassin's Creed Shadows has taken center focus for many conversations across the space, especially on X. Ubisoft is already in hot water with Star Wars Outlaws' poor gameplay, as well as Assassin's Creed Shadows' historical inaccuracies that they've put on full display so that they can push a very clearly DEI message to the rest of the West. They want to make Yasuke a real historical figure into a samurai, which he never was, and it has never been confirmed that he was, and they also want to make him bisexual. That is right, he is going to be in same-sex relationships as per the player's choices. It's going to be quite fascinating considering he is the main character, and this has caused so much backlash in Japan that it is actually insane. You can barely keep up with everything that the Japanese people are saying. This on top of Thomas Lockley's manipulation of historical facts, profiting off of a speculative fiction book, having his program scrubbed from the very university that he was made an associate professor in. By the way, it has not been confirmed that he was fired, but it was confirmed that his program was removed. We're going to have to see if there is an update there soon. However, this has evolved past just criticizing a guy from the UK who is perpetuating lies about Yasuke in order to fit his own narrative that helps him gain profits from his books so that Ubisoft can also push their reimagining of that character in their video game that has so many problems on its own. It's now become an issue of Japan versus Japan, as an entertainment professor has made his claim that Yasuke was an actual samurai. This is from Culture Crave, and there is a reason I'm showing you this exact post. Japanese historian Yu Hirayama says that Yasuke was a samurai. 83,000 likes, 7.5 million views. There are a lot of people who want this to be true, but unfortunately, he is touting a lot of the same talking points that Thomas Lockley touted, except Thomas Lockley was a little bit more insane with his claims because he used a sumo wrestler painting to help bring his point home rather than just what is portrayed here. Let's take a look at this guy's profile so that you can see who is making the argument on behalf of Ubisoft, unwittingly, by the way. He has not fully supported Thomas Lockley or Ubisoft's claims about this, but that has not stopped him from using the same exact information that I and many others have debunked over the past few weeks. He says right here that it seems like there's a lot of talk about Yasuke, a black man who served Oda Nobunaga. There are very few historical documents about him, but there's no doubt that he was a samurai who served Nobunaga. He says there's no doubt, not a single doubt based on just a handful of documents that don't even confirm he was a samurai. Are you serious, dude? Regardless of one's social status, if one's master promoted one to the rank of samurai, one could become one in medieval, warring state society. I can say this because the historical documents state that Nobunaga gave him a stipend, he was given a house, and he was given a sword, but many people are arguing that he was actually given a short sword, not a full-blown samurai sword. Being given a stipend and serving Nobunaga closely fulfills the important requirements of a contract between master and servant. Honestly, this guy's reaching. These are the same exact arguments that we have been hearing from those who are Ubi Shills and Yasuke samurai stans. But he says, agreement to receive a stipend, it is also important that he was allowed to carry a sword, so he was a two-sworded servant and not a servant. Servants were not allowed to carry swords, and if he was given a house, there's no room for doubt. No room whatsoever, he says. He was probably a slave until Nobunaga took over the missionary slave, but due to the above, he probably became a samurai of his own volition. Dude, this guy's reaching even harder than Thomas Lockley is now. During the Honoji incident, Akechi's side did not kill Yasuke because he was an animal or not Japanese, but that was only because Akechi did not recognize Yasuke as a samurai, probably because he had discriminatory feelings, and that just plays into the racist playbook that Japan was all about black slavery, which is something that the Japanese people are upset about, and this guy is touting that exact claim. He's actually making a bunch of baseless claims in his post based on information that cannot even confirm any of these things. At that time, it was common for a master to promote someone of low status to a samurai. To begin with, there is a good example in Hideyoshi. So people have been arguing with him about this. They're not in agreement with him. The Japanese people in particular. So this is a Japan versus Japan issue now. It's not just the United States versus Japan. It's not just Japan and the United States versus Thomas Lockley or Ubisoft. It is now Japanese people calling out their own historians for doing this thing. But what is it about this historian that is fascinating so many people and drawing the ire of people on the other side of the argument? Well, let's take a look at what Grums says here. This is a lot of information, so I hope you bear with me. It's very valuable. There is a huge argument erupting among Japanese and Japanese historians right now. Yu Hirayama Hirayama has been so blasted by Japanese on X that he has stopped tweeting about it after going viral. Entertainment consultant, historian, and professor at the University of Health Sciences has proclaimed Yasuke as a samurai. That is the guy in question. He brings no new information, citing the same scant sources Lockley uses, which boils down to it doesn't say Yasuke was not a samurai. So he's just saying the same thing that other people have been saying. And the only reason that so many people are taking what he says as fact is because he's a Japanese historian, which, to be honest, to me is a little bit racist. So many people before him that were not Japanese have been making such claims, and those people have been written off 100%. But when it comes to a Japanese historian, all of a sudden, these Ubisoft Shills think that they have an argument now. Because one Japanese historian decided to make a baseless claim. So they're like, yes, this is the guy we've been needing. This proves that Yasuke was a samurai. No, it does not. Critics point out Hirayama is a known Communist Party supporter and claim he is a globalist via his work with the Pony Entertainment Group. Well, that is very interesting. We're going to have to read a little bit about that, but his identity as Japanese historian has inflamed huge backlash. Japanese and other Japanese historians are upset that he is giving foreigners false ammunition to defend Lockley, which he never directly supports, whose 400-page book makes many spurious claims such as slavery was popular in Japan. And that's a point that I was trying to make earlier. Japanese people are upset about that as well because it's painting the picture that the Japanese were all about slavery, dude. And for promoting false narratives to foreigners about the Japanese, and Grums continues on, his argument is drawn from the same three sources. Okay, Yasuke was given a stipend, he was given a sword, he was given a home. And that is the only thing that these people have to support this ridiculous narrative about Yasuke being a samurai, a legendary samurai warrior who fought in battles with a sword. But here's the best part about this post from Grums. Quote, but so were many non-samurai, including merchants, according to critics. That means Yasuke was not the only one being given stipends, swords, and homes. Other people were, even merchants. Also, it is claimed that he lied about the sword given to Yasuke, which was only a short sword, not the long sword of samurai, according to these critics. In fact, Hirayama himself says that all this, under the most generous interpretations, could only grant the lowest status of fighting man to Yasuke, which he claims could very well be samurai or later promoted to samurai. So this is what Grums has to say, and it brings home the fact that so many people are being misled by this dude simply because he's Japanese and people are trying to prop him up as some kind of credible source, but he doesn't even have any additional sources to provide to help support Thomas Lockley or Ubisoft's definition of Yasuke being a samurai. And that's why eventually he said, I'm tired, I'll get back to work, I can't do this, because so many Japanese people were pushing back on his comments. You want to see it for yourself? I'm going to show you. One of the comments that he got a response from, and this is from a Japanese person, that's because you lied. If you get a sword, you become a samurai, then merchants will become samurai. And that, of course, is ridiculous because merchants cannot be samurai, right? No, this is no different from the situation of colonial scholars who give their stamp of approval to a colonial historical perspective that is being trumpeted and consumed outside of Japan. Why are they so eager to show off their academic expertise to Japanese people when they have nothing to say to English-speaking people? I think that's because they can be superior when competing against Japanese people. And somebody else had a really good response to this guy. The broad definition of samurai that scholars think of is different from the definition of samurai that foreigners think of. Look, even Thomas Lockley, who apparently did a crap ton of research on Yasuke, also said that the samurai definition was debated upon back in those days. They can't even have a straight up confirmation of what samurai meant. With your statement, a Japanese historian is acknowledging that Yasuke was a samurai and fought with a sword, just like the samurai we see in anime, movies, and games. I would like you to say that even if he may have been a samurai academically, he is not the samurai that foreigners think of, but again, there's no proof that he was anyway. Which brings us to his profile. Kei Hirayama, and this is translated from Japanese, a historian living in Yamanashi, specially appointed professor at the University of Health Sciences, affiliated with Pony Canyon. Well, what the heck is Pony Canyon? I'm going to delve into it in just a second. His many works include The Basic Structure of the Warring States, Daimyo Domain, The Tensho Jingo Rebellion, The Fall of the Takeda Clan, and Sengoku Shinobi. So this is the dude who's making the claim that Thomas Lockley may be right, that Ubisoft may not be too far off. Even though he does not state directly that he supports those theories, he makes his own theories that somehow align with those previous theories stories, and people are not happy about it. Americans are definitely commenting on his stuff. I've seen plenty of it, but the Japanese people are on fire with this guy. You have to see some of the responses that he got. One of them said, a person who served a samurai family, he was of low rank and would be considered a handyman in modern times. This guy has been on a response spree too. He's been replying to everybody as much as he can, but he's not getting a lot of support for his comments. He keeps getting ratioed by everybody that he talks to, 400 likes to 300 likes, but Americans are pointing out that he is getting lambasted by so many people. This is from Underground Shell. The historian in question is getting absolutely cooked by other Japanese historians because his argument boils down to there's no proof he wasn't a samurai. And in addition, Underground Shell adds a new post from Purple Whale, and that is a post I just had to see. But there are more comments to show you guys. Check this out. If so, why did Yasuke not have a family name? Is it possible for a person to be promoted to the rank of samurai to not have a family name? William Adams has the surname Miura, to which this guy responds, I've already answered my opinion elsewhere. Well, that certainly helps us narrow it down. Thank you so much, Hirayama. And he even gives a big response to somebody else. He formulates a bunch of these arguments. He claims that people who are arguing with him have absolutely no idea about Japanese history, but all of this stuff is public information, and since we only have a handful of documents, how far can you go with this narrative that Yasuke was a samurai? You don't have anything to back it up. He was given a few things. That doesn't mean anything. Merchants were given things too. So where's your argument now? Anyway, here's the Purple Whale post, which I found really interesting, and I know that you guys will find it interesting too. The new historian saying Yasuke is a samurai is Yu Hirayama. He is partnered with Pony Canyon, a music and entertainment company, to promote Japanese culture through entertainment, and is also a PR media site trying to globalize to the West. And here is their website photo right here, Pony Canyon Area Alliance, and that is the dude right there. And here's some description for Area Alliance Department. The Area Alliance Department embraces the mission of revitalizing regions, energizing Japan through the power of entertainment. Our primary focus lies in regional revitalization and branding, utilizing our proficiency in planning, producing, and promoting entertainment content. Through innovative approaches, we showcase the distinctive charm of local areas while fostering sustainable community development. Well, that is a lot of words to say right there. News and events. Pony Canyon Inc. announced its aggressive global strategy at the Pony Canyon USA Inc. press conference held in Los Angeles, USA. So the reason that this is interesting is because of what Purple Whale goes on to say here. 2024 is Pony Canyon's first year of globalization and has met with U.S. music industry members and U.S. press to help with the expansion of their newly established North American branch for music and anime distribution. It always happens when Japan opens a branch in California. Pony Canyon right here, it says in yellow. Pony Canyon, whose management plan is cross the border, has positioned 2024 as its first year of globalization. And it goes on to say even more. The event was attended by a standing room only crowd of people from the music and animation industries in the US and abroad, as well as members of the Japanese and US press. Announcement of the relaunch of its full-scale North American base and its strategy. Is this starting to make sense to you guys now? No, we'll take a look at one more post from Purple Whale. MUFG, aka MUFJ, which is lending money to Fuji Media Holdings, which owns Pony Canyon, who is promoting Yu Hirayama. Okay, these people are promoting him as a historian. Promoting Yasuke was a historical samurai for Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed, is majority owned by none other than BlackRock, Vanguard, and Goldman Sachs. There you have it. Why do you think that this Yasuke thing is being pushed so hard? And it's being pushed by this company that wants globalization, all right? They have to be nice to their people in the West, all right? Even if that means accepting things that aren't even historical fact. And speaking of facts, since Pony Canyon is owned by Fuji Media, and Fuji Media is being lent money by MUFG, and MUFG is owned by BlackRock, Vanguard, and Goldman Sachs, something is definitely afoot here, and I don't like it. And here's the image that shows that this is true. Largest shareholders include Aristotle Capital Management LLC, Bank of America Corp., Vanguard Fund Investor Shares, Goldman Sachs Group Inc., Natixis Advisors, Morgan Stanley, Fisher Asset Management, and BlackRock Inc. There it is, in big letters. That should tell you a lot. And again, this guy is getting smoked in the replies, to the point where he's like, I'm tired, I'll get back to work, I can't do this anymore. And the Japanese people don't stop there, they keep calling him out. They don't stop. Let's just take a look at a random comment. What does this one say? Your reckless actions will have consequences when this becomes a full-scale international issue. Well, keep running away forever. That is exactly what this thing has become. And that is why people are starting to call him out even more than they were before. Your previous remarks were quickly used for propaganda purposes in this way and have had ripple effects all over the world. When knowledgeable people speak on this issue, they need to take into account the political impact, which is something that Hirayama did not do. And that's why he's got Culture Crave quoting him and other people on Twitter who are influential quoting him, and it is getting way too much attention. And that brings us to this comment from a Japanese person who responded to him. This is why I said the other day that caution is needed when dealing with Assassin's Creed and the Yasuke issue. Parts of his statement have been cut out to create the impression that Japanese historians are on Thomas Lockley's side, and they are being elevated to the status of authorities who are correctly conveying the Yasuke legend. People see a Japanese historian say stuff like this, they're going to quote tweet it. They're going to spread it as far as they can because they feel that that's the ammunition they need to bring this Yasuke was a samurai story home and use it as a fact that they can push against the people who are calling it out as false. It's simply because he's Japanese, and that's why I say that it's a little bit racist. These people don't even think. They just see a Japanese person saying, yeah, Yasuke was a samurai, and then they just take it as fact. They don't even consider who he works for. They don't even consider that he works for an entertainment company who is focused on globalization, which means bowing to your superiors no matter what, even if what they want you to do contradicts the truth. Just take a look at who these companies are being funded by, and you will have your answer. And this guy really does present a very good point. I mean, take a look at this post from Genki. Real Japanese historian Yu Hirayama says that Yasuke was a samurai. He says real Japanese historian, like this is the definitive proof. Look how much attention it's gotten. 28,000 likes, almost 3 million views. How many people have been misled because of this claim that this dude knows exactly what he's talking about? I mean, the dude only has the information that Thomas Lockley used, except Thomas Lockley made a 400-page book about it. These people have no idea what they're talking about. This is dangerous stuff. A lot of people are being lied to. Let's look back at that Culture Crave post. How many likes did that one get again? 83,000, 7.5 million views, and those are only 2 accounts that are pushing this stuff. There are a lot of accounts that are trying to use this as ammunition in this fight to prove that Yasuke was a samurai who fought in battles with a sword. And last but not least, a very interesting post from Delibrium that kind of says a lot about his stance. And this is a previous post from January. Great job, Delibrium, for pulling this up. If you have not followed this guy or any of the people that I have quoted in this video, please do so. They bring a lot of helpful information to the table. Quote, there has been a lot of talk about the state of the Japanese Communist Party convention. It hasn't changed at all since the end of the Showa era when I was a member, and the early Heisei era, and I'm sorry if I pronounced these wrong, when Miyamoto Kenji was in power. During my time, I remember Iri Kazutomo being expelled for criticizing Miyamoto Kenji, but I wonder how long they intend to hold on to Lenin's unique organizational theory, which sought to build a party under Russia's unique autocratic regime as a golden rule. This time in particular, I think the situation is even worse than it was in the Showa era. The expulsion of Shimosato Masaki in the Heisei era was also truly terrible. So this dude's a straight up commie, okay? You have to understand that not all Japanese people are just part of the Japanese hive mind. They're not always going to be on the side of the Japanese people when the Japanese people band together to push against a certain ideology. Some of these people in Japan want this to happen. The same is true for people in the West. That's why we're having disagreements all the time. The key is to properly distinguish the truth from fiction, and if you can't do that, then you're going to have people like this being propped up as heroes for Japanese culture. And that's exactly what's happening. That's why Culture Crave just mindlessly quotes them as if it's a huge deal that one person from Japan, who's now being criticized from a bunch of other historians in Japan, is somehow a sage truth teller. But the only truth that exists is that Yasuke has never been proven to be a samurai, and there is very little evidence to be able to prove something as big as that. In fact, if you take a look at all of the historical documents, there is more evidence that he was simply a baggage carrier than there was evidence that he was a samurai at all. But people on the other end of this argument, the people who want Ubisoft's version of Yasuke to be real as can be, are willing to die on this hill regardless of the fact that they have completely misled people with a guy who doesn't even have the information on hand to be able to support this theory. Even Thomas Lockley, who wrote a 400-page book and actually did research on this guy, could not help but admit in an an interview for Ubisoft that he cannot confirm himself if Yasuke was even a samurai, but he definitely romanticizes it. That is what he admits. If anything, this situation is fascinating. I don't know if this guy is going to keep posting, but it does not look like he is interested in continuing the conversation, and he might be made aware by so many people that have pointed it out to him how much damage he has caused by touting this conspiracy about Yasuke. If he doesn't have any more facts to present, then he should not be bringing this argument to the conversation at all. But who's to say how this is going to go from here on out? The Japanese government is definitely investigating this stuff, but what of the Yasuke author? Is he going to continue to hide? Is he going to leave the country? Is he actually going to be fired from his university? I guess only time will tell. But if there is one thing that we can acknowledge as fact, it is that the Japanese people care about their culture and history, and whether you're American, British, or from Japan, you will be in their crosshairs if you try to mess with their truth. And that is all I've got for you guys in this video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.